name is Reverend Natalie Jean, and I reside in Kensington, Maryland. Some of you may know me already from the Blog Talk Radio show that I do on Blog Talk Radio in regards to Emma. I do it in French and in English. And I also have the website called www.highwatch.net. My journey started in New York, and that's where I learned about Emma Curtis Hopkins and started to read Scientific Christian Mental Practice. However, when I first got the book, I really wasn't in it until I moved back to where I came from, which is Maryland, and started my ministerial classes with Reverend Christopher Bazemore in Largo, Maryland at the Church of the Holy Spirit. I became so obsessed with her teachings after I had to answer a bunch of questions for the ministerial class that I began to research who Emma Curtis Hopkins was. What I found was that her teachings were so expensive. They were like $500, $100 per book. And I was amazed until I found a website called Desert Express Designs, which was Reverend Joanna Rogers' website. She took it over from March Flotron, who was actually renewing the teachings, actually putting the teachings back out so that many people could get it at a reasonable price. Well, Reverend Joanna Rogers took it over and was very successful in obtaining a lot of her teachings so that all of us could have them at a reasonable price. Well, when I got to her website, I bought everything and read everything. I saw high mysticism and I tried to read it the first time and I was just lost. But as I began to understand who Emma Curtis Hopkins was, I could read that book in 2 days flat and I understood everything. So I became a minister through the Church of the Holy Spirit in Largo, Maryland, and I learned so many things about Emma Curtis Hopkins through there. But my question was, why wasn't there any more material than the things that were out there? Over the past several years, I've gone to Chicago. I've done many forms of research to find her teachings, and I found a lot of her lost lessons. And so in my research as well, I found Michael Terranova, who owns Wise Movement Press, who also releases a lot of her unpublished teachings. And so we're all working together so that you, the audience, the spiritual beings that you are, can learn more about the truth, more about self-realization, and more about how to attain your good. Now, during this research, it's been amazing. I'm a person that can't read, something twice, but Emma's teachings, I can read it over and over and over, and every time I read something different. There's also a clear message for me. So I wanted to start an Emma movement on YouTube so that more people can understand where she came from. Now, when she started out, obviously she was with Mary Baker Eddy, but they had a clash. It was more on Mary Baker Eddy's side because Mary Baker Eddy only thought that Spirit spoke through her. Whereas Emma Curtis Hopkins believed that Spirit was in everybody. And, Emma studied many of the different religions, and she wanted to find the commonality between all of them. So that's where they clashed. So Emma decided to leave, as well as Mary Baker Eddy didn't want her there. But in doing my research, it's funny. I found that Emma Curtis Hopkins almost went back, but decided not to go back to the Christian Science Seminary. So in her work, she developed a Christian Science Theological Seminary where she taught about the truth. She taught the different many religions. And one of the main things she tells you is that you need to read the 6 Bibles that are out there and find the thing that feeds you, that moves you. That is the one that you should read 3 times. She spoke many different languages and was one of the first people to ordain over 50,000 people, women and men. People are misconstrued by the fact that they think she was a feminist. She wasn't. She helped everybody. Her goal was to be able to help people see the truth about themselves. And her main thing was, there is good for you and you ought to have it. And that good is God, because God is the essence of who we are. We should be able to see that Spirit, God, in each and every individual. Once we change our consciousness to only be positive and only focusing on God, that is how we are able to speak our truth and manifest the miracles and blessings that we are supposed to have. She says in many of her lessons, and one of her lessons in particular, the healing light, that we are living in a nightmare. That once we decide to wake up from this nightmare and lift the veil of the human conditioning, we will let our spirits soar and do away with this illusion. And we will see the spiritual aspects of life, which is what the truth is about. Being able to let our light shine and helping other individuals out there express that light and move that light throughout their lives. This is what the teaching is about. This is who we are about. So the goal is, with the www.highwatch.net website and Desert Express Designs and Wise Woman Press and EmmaCurtisHopkins.com, is to bring out a lot of her teachings, publish them so that the world can know how to empower themselves. What's interesting is that a lot of her teachings have been closed off to people because there's certain people that try to put it out, and people were warned not to put it out because it really is extremely powerful. Spirit spoke through Emma Curtis Hopkins, but she takes a mystical point of view of the Bible. She was able to read between the lines. She was able to see the truth about the Bible and what the teachings were. A lot of her students are Charles Fillmore, Myrtle Fillmore, Joel Goldsmith, H.B. Jeffries, Ernest Holmes, Emily Cady, Ricks. All these people were able to work with her and learn so many things that they brought her teachings out. Now, she allowed her students to put out her teachings. Scientific Christian Mental Practice is one of them, and a lot of her Bible lessons. But one of the things that she wrote was High Mysticism and Resume, which are fantastic books about the self and spirit. So we want to put out something to you, the Emma Movement, so that more people can understand the truth about themselves. They can read her teachings and decide upon themselves if Emma is for them. As I always say, Emma feeds me, it may not feed you. Now, I love Emma so much, and I think I'm one of the most obsessed fans and teachers of her work, that I have her initials tattooed on me. I love her. Her teachings have moved me beyond measure. So what I would like to do with this Emma Curtis Hopkins show on YouTube is that I want to engage people in this movement and try to get people to understand the truth about themselves. There is no judgment in what your beliefs are when it comes to truth, when it comes to self. You can freely express yourself and understand who you are. That's what I like to get people to understand, is that when we manifest our miracles and our blessings for ourselves, we are doing it for somebody else in the universe, and we must all work together. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins' teachings are vast. There are so many of them. And a lot of her students, mainly Charles Fillmore, and especially 12 Powers of Man, that is actually Emma Curtis Hopkins had one, which she did in November 18th, 1894. If you have that lesson and you compare it to Charles Fillmore's, you will see where he got some of his information from, and that is Emma Curtis Hopkins. It's also H.B. Jeffries on his mysticism book. Some people think that she collaborated with him on that. No, those were her teachings that he used. And Emma Curtis Hopkins did not mind people using some of her material. She actually said, this is good stuff, bring it out. You have George Burnell. She's told him to write several books. He often uses some of her affirmations in her books. She was vital. It is amazing to me when the book The Secret came out, they didn't even put her in there. She was a main pioneer of New Thought. Now, she did come from Christian Science, but Mary Baker Eddy copyrighted it. So now what we call her teachings is spiritual science. And there will be more and more teachings of hers coming out. At one point, they believed that Emma Curtis Hopkins' teachings were so powerful, and a lot of people didn't want people to understand them. That's why for the longest time, it was shut down. There was nothing left. But we have great pioneers like my pastor, Reverend Christopher Bazemore, who is one of the members on the boards at the INTA, International New Thought Alliance, that pushed and pushed to get a lot of her teachings out there. He kept the consciousness open. So did Reverend Joanna Rogers and Michael Terranova and Ruth Miller and Marge Photron. There are very few of us, but we're trying to get this movement started, and we would like to get more people to understand and focus on what her teachings were really about. And it's great because one of her books, Self-Treatment, is tremendous. It teaches us who we are and where we come from. So I hope that this first segment was interesting and wonderful, and please continue for the next episode, which will fall in a couple of weeks, or in the next week. I'll let you know through the newsletter. Please visit me at www.highwatch.net and have a wonderful day.